Hey YouTube, hope you're all well. So, digging through the vault again. Not sure how many more guitars I'm going to find in the vault, but here is my BC Rich Mockingbird. Yeah, so as you can see, this is a fancy one because it's got an R logo on the top. I tried to do a video for this yesterday, but it actually wasn't working. The bridge pickup was very, very thin sounding. I was thinking there was something broken, so I went inside, and what had happened is, see when you've got like a pickup and you join the two intermediate wires together. You know, when you buy a pickup that's got 4 wires on it, you've got like earth, output, and the two, which is the wire that goes between the two coils, and they're taped together. Well, they weren't taped, so what happened was those 2 wires were touching the back of one of the pots, which was shorting it out and basically making it a single coil. So now I've sorted it. On top of that, also I did some more research into this particular guitar, which I got this, I want to say 5 years ago, something like that. I got it from my pal Jim for fixing his bathroom. I put plastic sheeting on the walls and silicone around the bath and stuff. But so originally this was found in cash converters in Glasgow. I remember seeing it and just thinking, there's a BC Rich, oh, it's got an R on the head, that may be a fancy one, don't know. Didn't buy it. And then the following week I'd obviously mentioned it to my pal Jim, and then he'd gone in and bought it. It wasn't working at the time. There was something intermittent with it, which I've still never really worked out what it was. Basically, I took it to bits, put it back together again, and it worked. So there was just a bad solder joint somewhere in it, and because it wasn't working, he gave it to me as for fixing his bathroom. As a bonus for fixing his bathroom, I think he gave me £100 as well for doing the day for a day's work. So I put this on the BC Rich Junkies Facebook page last night, seeing if anyone could enlighten me to what it was. I was under the impression, I remember putting this on somewhere before and being told it was a JE, which is a Japanese edition guitar. But last night, so I put the same thing on last night, and no one's answered. A couple of folks said, "Oh, it's got a cool paint job in it." And I was like, "Oh, well, that was me that did that." So originally, this just had 2 pickups. I put the third one in the middle. These pickups, I couldn't believe it after I bought it, or after I'd been given it. About 2 weeks afterwards, I was looking up BC Riches and I found this pickup, which is the same pickup as these two. It's a neck pickup, going by the colour of the wire. I think is it brown? I think the bridge is a brown wire, like outer shielding, outer cable, and then these two have got grey outer shielding. So I've got two neck pickups and a bridge pickup in this. Whether there's a difference between the bridge and the neck, they've got the same pole piece dimensions. I never actually measured them. I probably should for the ohm meter. So I'm not sure what it is now. Yesterday I was thinking it was a JE, a Japanese edition, but last night I spent an hour looking up pictures of mockingbirds trying to find one like this, and it's not like any of the other JE ones I've seen. None of them have this quad bridge, which is the original BC Rich type bridge, sort of like a badass, I suppose. On the bottom it's got the R logo on it. It's like a BC Rich bridge. It's also got BC Rich tuners, the R logo on them as well. And every single one of the JE ones I saw had Goto tuners and a tunematic bridge. The only guitar I could find that looked anything like this was on a Japanese site. It was like an auction site. It was sold years ago, but it had pictures of it. Of the only guitar I've ever seen that looks like this one, and it said it was a USA made one. I know that doesn't, just because of the advert says it, doesn't mean that it is. It does say LA, California on the back of the neck plate, but looking up, researching this, apparently the serial number means nothing. It's a BC 41158. But apparently the serial number means nothing because there's just a box of serial numbers, so when they were building them they stuck the neck plates on just in whatever order they came out the box in. So I'm not sure it's not an American one. Every JE one I saw didn't look like this. All of them had diamond or different shaped fret inlays and stuff. This one I saw on the Japanese site was pretty much exactly the same, apart from this has a big cavity on the back here. So this is big enough to take all the fancy switches that go on it. It doesn't have them. It never came with them. It's just got like a volume. I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't remember whether it was 2 volumes and a tone or a volume and 2 tones, but I've obviously modified it because I stuck a third pickup in the middle. So it's still out for options of what this actually is, but I think it might be an American one, like because it's built on like a budget American BC Rich. From, I used to think the 90s, but now I think maybe late 80s. This is just going by that one Japanese site I could find, and they claimed it was 1986. So maybe it is. My thinking about it maybe not being Japanese is I've got 2 other BC Rich Japanese ones, NJ series ones, which are a bitch, a bolt-on neck bitch, and a neck through wave. And both of them feel very much like Japanese guitars. I'm mad into my Japanese guitars. Got lots of them, and there's just things that they just feel like Japanese guitars. This one doesn't really. This one feels a bit different from most of the Japanese ones. So I think it possibly is an American one. If I will put USA question mark in the description, in the heading for this page. And if anyone knows what it is or has one or has seen one before, especially when you see these pickups with a BC Rich logo in the middle of them, I've never seen them anywhere either, apart from on that one on that Japanese page. Yeah, so my BC Rich, this was originally black, but it had lots of damage on it from having had stickers. So it was all scuffed because someone had taken the stickers off with a, like a razor blade or something. So it was all scratched. So I had to paint it. Also, at one point, I because it was a BC Rich. This is before I had that many guitars. Before I started collecting them, thinking it might be a sort of collectible item. I thought, I can do silly wiring. This is the start of my silly wiring. So I had 7 mini switches in it. So basically I had it set up, I'd taken out the pickup selector, so I had volume for the 3 pickups, and then a master tone, and then each pickup had a 3-way switch which was on, off, and then out of phase, and another 3-way switch which was humbucker, parallel wired humbucker, and single coil. So that was the 6, and then I think the last one was a kill switch, just because why not have 7 switches in it. Also at that time I tried to paint it, so I used the paint that I had, and it was a sort of green and gold, so I sort of tried to do a sort of yellow to green sunburst, but it looked rubbish. I mean, although and technically it actually sounds like it could be quite good, so like a yellow to green, in my head that says, that sounds cool, but this just looked shit. So it got taped off as my zebra one. This is the first one I did also. The other day I dug out my Hondo bass, which I did as sort of like a tiger, which is probably the same tin of black paint. I know this one doesn't have black paint on it, but basically about this, around the same sort of time I did the 2 of them, before I was mad into the Japanese guitars. So, yes, so here we go. I decided that because I had so many switches and stuff in it, I spent more time fidgeting with the switches, and it was dead confusing to know exactly what was going on with just having that many switches, that I just ditched it. So what I did was I got a piece of metal, filled up the inside, basically sort of slightly smaller than this, but this shape, tight up against the bottom to give the filler something to stick into. If I hold it up to the light, you can see where it's been filled. It's not. One of the reasons I went for a crazy paint job like this was to try and disguise the fact that there's a bit of a lumpy and not very good bit there. And I put back in the original pickup switch, original volume, original tone. This one, which I found out yesterday, which I'd completely forgotten about, is actually a push-pull, so it's not original. It's a volume. This goes to the output of. No, it doesn't. It goes to it goes straight to the volume control. Whereas these 2 pickups go to this volume, go to the switch, and then to the volume control. So if you've got this is a master volume, and this is a volume sort of within it for the middle pickup. And if you pull it up, it reverses the phase of the middle pickup, so you can bring in the middle pickup to any level you want with either any position on this. So you can have these 2 or all 3 on, and then any one of them you can adjust how out of phase the middle pickup is, or whether it is actually out of phase. Yeah, so it's a pretty good guitar. And I decided, so it doesn't have coil splits in it, all it's got that extra phase thing. This is just to try and keep it down to sort of something that I could actually use. I've also noticed there's a strap button here, so the chances are it's me that put the strap button on the neck to make it balance well, and it balances pretty well. Has to be said. I hear reverb. Yeah. So that's just the breast pickup on its own. Clean through my wee Laney BC15 in that cabinet. If I bring in the middle pickup to full, and if I phase it, so this is it, the middle pickup on, fully out of phase. If you bring it down a little bit, you can determine how jangle. That's it. The middle. That's it. Doing the same thing, but with the neck pickup instead. Fully out of phase. All three pickups on with the middle pickup out of phase. But for me, I think the main feature of this is the fact if you roll it down just a wee bit, with just not quite on full bung, you get some lovely, still very high output, very powerful sound. Turn the volume down a wee bit. All three on, and all three on at full power. Bridge pickup. So these pickups are quite powerful. Someone told me the other day when I was doing that Hondo that the way to tell if it's a real DiMarzios have imperial sized. See that it's got like the hexagonal Allen bolts for the pole pieces. Real DiMarzios, they're imperial sized, and on Japanese ones they're metric. These are metric, so are the ones on that Hondo. So possibly Japanese pickups. See, that makes me think it could be a Japanese guitar, but who's to say? I'm sure I read somewhere at some point that there were guitars that were made in the USA, but actually all the parts were brought over from the Japan and then assembled in the USA so they could put made the USA badge on it. Still not really sure. It's still pretty cool having the R on the logo. I've no idea how much something like this would be worth. I think the paint job's probably damaged it quite a lot. I'm not going to sell it anyway, but because I always wanted a Mockingbird. But the paint job's probably damaged it quite a lot. Also, I'm not sure adding the middle pickup has done very much for it. Although I do think it is a bit of a looker. I think having the three pickups kind of suits it. Also, I used metal pickup rings, so it's definitely got a look, which I like, whether anybody else does or not. And it is a Mockingbird. I think what it has done is it's detracted a little bit from the crazy shape. It's almost disguising how pointy this bit is. This bit always reminded me of like H.R. Geiger, sort of alien sort of thing here. I remember when I got this I found it was a really uncomfortable guitar to play, but I'm not finding that anymore. That might be since I moved the strap button, or maybe just because I'm more used to playing crazy shaped guitars. so it doesn't seem as odd. I seem to remember this sticking into my tummy, but it doesn't seem to be doing it anymore. The thing that is annoying, which cannot be denied, is the fact, see, because it's not, it doesn't have a flat bottom on it, you can't just sit it on the ground leaning against your amp. You need to have it on a stand, or you need to have it hanging, or you need to lay it flat, which is annoying. But that's just one of the things that you. That's the same with any guitar, any sort of explorery shaped guitar. It's the same. You can't, just being able to lean it against the wall is something you just take for granted on a normal shaped guitar. One of these, which you don't get from when you're looking cool. I mean, I think this is. It's definitely got a look. So if you put it in front of something black, you kind of lose the striking, the shape. I should really have it in front of a sort of solid piece of colour. That's why I wore this yellow t-shirt. So I suppose I'll have a wee jamboree on it, see if I can find something metal to play. 15 minutes of just talking. I'll put that in the description so you can watch it though. Pick up it as well. BC Rich. Always been a fan of the BC Rich shapes. There's something about when you see like mad pointy guitars. There's something about the real BC Rich shapes which somehow just work for me. They're not symmetrical. That's not the word I mean. But and when I say they balance well, I don't mean they sit on a strap well. There's just something about the original BC Rich shapes that just look right. You see a lot of other people trying to do spiky models that don't quite work. Like sort of BC Richie looking ones, but you can sort of tell. I think even if you didn't know which ones were actual BC Rich, you could sort of tell which ones were just by the sort of the look of them. For example, the first time I saw my Wave, which I did a video for 6 months ago, I'd never seen a Wave before. And I went to buy a DiMarzio Super Distortion of a guy in Stirling, and this Wave was sitting in the corner. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, that, whoa. And I could tell immediately it was a real BC Rich, even though it's a shape. It's like a really uncommon shape. You really don't see very many Waves, but it just has the look. The bitch as well. The bitch is an interesting one. I have been searching for a Warlock. I've had a few Warlocks, but I've never had one that really talked to me, really spoke to me. I very nearly kept one. I had, I think just before Christmas, but I had to sell it because I didn't have any money. One it was a body art series, and it had like a mad graphic on the front of sort of aliens. It looked really cool. It was like a much more modern one. Some of the things I don't like about them, they tend to have satin necks. This one's got a gloss neck. I really don't like a satin neck. Painted neck or gloss neck for me. BC Rich are a funny one. I think they've been owned by lots of different companies, and they've also been made in many different places and at different quality levels. The original ones, the 70s ones, I've never played one of them, but they're obviously meant to be amazing. They're thousands of pounds though, and I think they're all neck through, and they tend to have fancy switches on them. And then next down is the NJ series, which are amazing guitars. They're very much Japanese in the same ilk as some of the ones I've got, apart from they're BC Rich branded and BC Rich shaped. They're really good. After that, I've had one, what was it? It was a Warlock, and it looked amazing. It was a sort of blue, see-through, translucent finish, and it looked stunning, but it was a really rubbish guitar. It was just, everything was in looks, nothing was in playability. It was terrible. So I sold that a couple of years ago. Hopefully the person who bought it isn't, I didn't like it. Okay, maybe it wasn't really shit, I just didn't like it. It had a satin neck, and it might even have a reverse headstock. It looked pure amazing, but it's just, the quality was not at the level of this or the Japanese ones. I'm now thinking of this as being American. The more I play it, now that I've kind of decided American, it sort of feels like it is. I don't know how you explain that, as opposed to being Japanese, even though I have painted it. Stupid. So BT Riches are funny. I've had quite a few. I had a few of the Bronze series Warlocks. They're actually pretty good. Like for budget guitars, I'm not bothered if you're paying £100 or £120 for a new guitar, and it's, when you're talking about that sort of price new, getting a guitar that plays all the way is what you want, and it's like, for that, brilliant. I had no issues with the quality at 120 quid. What did get me a bit was, like, I tried higher up ones, like from the last 20 years, and they were pretty much exactly the same as the Bronze series, apart from the better hardware, but the actual guitar still felt exactly the same. Like the Platinum and that Diamond series one were kind of just the same guitar, apart from they came in a better colour and probably better pickups and stuff. But really, didn't really do it for me the right way. So I'm kind of, the thing about not this one, this one having the R on it. I think if you stuck this on eBay or Reverb or something like that, or more eBay, and then put it on starting at 100 quid, I think this would go for quite a lot of money, because folk would want one that had the R logo, because it looks like what Slash played. Not quite as fancy. Slash has got this, it's through neck, so it's got the stringers, it's got the fancy, it's got the extra switches on it. Incidentally, I know I'm talking on here, and most folk will have given up, but hey, I had a shot of one did I already have this? I think I might have already had this guitar. In fact, I did already had this guitar, and I went into Guitar, and they had one which was on sale, and this is maybe 5 years ago, maybe not as much as that. It was called an ST or an AT, so it had like the BC Rich script logo on the headstock, and it had Floyd Rose, it had Rockfield Mafia pickups, which were actually really good. I was really impressed with those pickups, and it had all the extra switches. So it had a Veritone, it had a coil split for each pickup, and it had a phase switch. I think that was it. So it was 3 switches and a Veritone, I think, was on it. And the guitar itself, it wasn't as good as this. And I was sitting there, and I think it was reduced to like 750 quid or something like that. It was still pure expensive as hell. And I was like, we were just playing it going, this is not the same as this. And then even after that, maybe 6 months after that or something, I saw one on, I think it was Gumtree, and it had a chunk out it on the surface. It was very, very fancy looking at a chunk. I did a video of it, and it was like the guy only wanted, it was 100 quid or something for it. I was like, oh, straight on there, you know, the vulture of Gumtree that I am. You know, advert been on for 5 minutes, so I bought it off him, met him in a car park, and at the Showcase Cinemas. It's whenever you meet someone at a car park, you always wonder if they've stole it or something. But anyway, the guy seemed nice. I think the reason we did that was because he was from the same distance away. I was up here. It was quite a drive, and so we kind of met halfway, and it was sort of the Showcase Cinemas was halfway between where I am and where he was. I think it was at Hamilton or something he was from, or East Kilbride, something like that. And I had that guitar, and although it looked smashing, that it was just there was no way it was ever going to get played when I had this one, because this one was just 10 times the guitar. Even though it was neck through and Floyd Rose and all these things, it didn't have the basic quality that this one does. And I think there's quite a lot of that with BC Rich's. Even, I don't know, the other one I nearly bought, I'm just going to keep rabbiting on, the other one I very nearly bought was which I would possibly still buy, there's a Warlock you can get that's got a spalted maple top on it. I think it's only got one humbucker, and I think there's 2 versions of it. There's one that's got a widow headstock and one that's got like a reverse headstock. Always thought that looked cool. They were about 400 quid new, and I always quite fancied. I've not seen any for sale on eBay in the last couple of years, but they weren't that expensive new. Quite fancy one of them. It might have been through neck, in fact I think it was through neck as well. But that was purely for look. So I'm still on the hunt for my Warlock, because I will get one. I just don't know which one it's going to be yet. It's going to have to be a slightly fancy one, possibly an NJ series. NJ series are really good. I almost bought a Stealth. I actually saw it when I was searching in my last night looking this up. I saw places you've been before. It was an eBay issue for a new NJ series Stealth, which had no pickups. The body was all cracked, and someone had hollowed out, like it's like sort of like a rounded explorer-y sort of shape, and someone had routed out this big horn bit here and put metal in it, I assume to try and make it less neck heavy. And I was looking at this thing, and it started off at like £1 or I don't know, 20 quid or something like that. I was thinking, right, I'm totally going for this, and it ended up going for like 300 quid, and I was like, right. So I'm not paying £300 for one that's a total project and looked terrible, but I think maybe the Stealth's quite a rare one. It's another one of those shapes like the Wave, which never really cottoned on, whereas like the Mockingbird, the Bitch, and the Warlock, you still get them. They're still, most BC Riches are. I don't think they've ever been out the catalogue. So I think one of the things about the NJ series I was saying when I said, but not this one, the NJ series, because BC Rich, I think a lot of people have had, and a lot of guitars suffer from this. Washburn, Aria Pro, in the sort of 90s, they made cheap guitars. I don't know if they were particularly cheap to buy, but they were cheaply built. They weren't particularly good, so everyone remembers those guitars and seeing them in the guitar shop for 200 quid new, and then playing one and thinking they were shit. So the ones that people don't realise that the NJ series are different, or the original NJ series, as in NJ used to stand for Nagoya, Japan, and then it didn't stand for Nagoya, Japan after 86 or 7, whenever it was. They stopped making them in Japan. They started making them in Korea or Indonesia or something, and Korean guitars at that time weren't what Korean guitars are now. Korean guitars now are expensive, but still a bit. They kind of. They just don't. They don't have the character of this. This one's got a neck not unlike my Gibson SG actually. Maybe it's quite flat and quite wide. It's Gibson scale and it's 24 frets, which isn't really that common. The 24 frets is not super easy to get to the. I mean, you can get to it. It's not completely unhindered, not like an SG. Well, SG only has 22, but I think a lot of this guitar shape is just shaped to shock, built to rock. It's not really super ergonomic sharp. There is a wee bit of a trade-off of looking amazing and being 100% practical. As I said, practical wise, just that whole thing about not being able to lean it against the wall because it's not, it doesn't have a flat bottom, is pretty impractical. And it's not super good for reaching the high frets. You can still get to them. In fact, it's actually not that bad. But I mean, I'm just sitting there playing it, and my hand is touching this bit here. When you're up there, you're very much leaning against the body, but still there. So 36 minutes of talking about my BC Rich. Yes, so BC Riches are awesome, especially this one. And if anyone had one or has one with these pickups in it, these ones with the BC Rich written in the middle, and they're sort of DiMarzio looking as opposed to I've definitely got BDSM pickups, which don't have the hex poles, and they've got BC Rich in the corner. Those are really good pickups. I've had a few of them kicking about. I think they just came in your standard BC Rich bronze and platinum series, but I thought they were really good pickups. And also those Rockfield Mafias, if you ever see them. I think it's the sort of thing that a lot of people would have bought that ST or the AT one I was talking about because of Slash, and that's why this one would sell, because Slash's one's obviously got the R on the headstock. Like a lot of people would have bought that, and the sort of people like that would definitely have put in the Seymour Duncan pickups. It's like the old sort of, I won't bother listening to the pickups that are in it. No, I want Seymour Duncans. Why do you want? I just do. So that's, I think you would probably maybe be able to pick up those Rockfield Mafia ones pretty cheap. If you ever see them, they're definitely good. I would totally rate them. Quality pickups. Rock on, 37 minutes. Hope you're all doing good. I'm doing alright, I suppose. Getting a wee bit housebound. Got a letter from my girlfriend this morning, so thank God she's alright. Took a month to get here, so she was alright a month ago. Which was, she's in Taiwan, and who knows what's going on, who knows what the news is telling you and all that stuff. Rock and roll.